So please take notes and ask questions as we go. Feel free to comment and interact whenever you would like to. There is no such thing as a stupid question here. And please never feel that your question will be distracting. We're used to selecting, we're used to hundreds or thousands at a time, so it's all good. Please also feel free to respond to one of those comments as we go along if you'd like to. Please check that your chat is working by typing a word that doesn't exist yet, but should do, into the chat thread now. Go. Hannah, I want you to do this as well. While Hannah's doing that, this lesson will run for about 30 to 45 minutes, maybe slightly longer. Who knows? We will begin. We'll see what happens. Yeah, thank you for coming. Let's should we just look at this quick picture? I mean, this picture isn't actually where the lesson starts, but Hannah, do you know what this is?
Oh, it's a giant cell that is the universe inside the cell. I don't know. This looks absolutely crazy.
No, it's like here's the sun, and I guess here's the Earth.
The system.
Hanging out. What it is it's the universe, but on a logarithmic scale.
Ooh.
Do you know what that means?
Good word. Isn't it to go times by 10 every stage?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. It means that the further away you get from the middle, the further away it gets. So like this distance here is like the same as this distance here. Which is the same as like this distance here. And so all the distances get more and more compressed. So basically right at the edge, you can see like the entire edge of the universe all kind of compressed together. Anyway, that has absolutely nothing to do with the lesson. So let's start. Let's actually dive in. So we're going to start. I want to start us on a game, and this game is based in Canada. Oh, we can be heard again now. Great. Okay, right. So great. Maria Mab can hear us. Paul can hear it. Great. Everyone can hear us again. Okay, right. So we're going to play a game. And this game begins at McMurdo's Sound, which is a little lake somewhere in North America, or I think Canada maybe. Anyway, it's a little lake. It's kind of down in these parts of this little kind of map. Now, what I want you guys to do is find the highest point. So give me a distance, some number of miles away from McMurdo Sound, between 0 and like 35. And we'll have a little look at what's there. And in a moment, we'll then relate this back to cryptocurrencies, and it will all make some kind of sense. Hannah, if you want, you can have the first guess.
Oh, go on then. 8.
8. Right, so let's go. Oh, there we go. We've found a little bit of lake. Go on, have another one.
Okay, go on then. 22.
22.
22.
Right.
Feeling good about 22.
Oh, you've actually smashed straight onto one of the peaks. Nice.
Up incline.
Okay, there's one peak. There's one peak. Anyone have any other mileages away that they want to guess? There are a few peaks hidden in this Canadian land.
I think it's further inland, because that would make sense from a fold mountain perspective. I don't know. Okay,
so Maria is saying 27. Let's give 27 a go.
Yeah.
It's 27, maybe about here. No peak at 27. Paul's giving us a 30. Let's have a little look at 30. Just got a bit of a lake there at 30. Any other guesses? Hannah, do you want to have another one?
Ooh, 6.
6. All right, so 6 is going to kind of be like around here, isn't it?
Oh.
Nah, not there, but maybe.
It's going up. The gradient.
Any other guesses from people who are on? Oh, Maria's gone for a 24. Let's see what's at 24. So in here. Bit of a peak, but not really one of the ones we're looking for. Hannah?
I'm going to say 3.
3?
Yeah.
Boom. Ooh. Coral Ridge. There it is. Should we also pull this one away? Because let's get the Swiss Zeus Glacier. There's one more. There's one more peak. So the reason why we're doing this is because you can use the map and the bits of information that you do have to kind of infer where you think the peak is going to be. So it's a bit difficult to see here, but maybe if we maybe if we pull away some others, like let's get rid of this one and this one here. And maybe let's get rid of this one. Oh, I've totally just revealed, I've just revealed it. Anyway, right. So the point is that when you know little bits of the map, you can start to guess. Let's get rid of that. You can start to guess where the peaks are going to be, right? And this is essentially in some ways how a computer will like figure out a problem. In some ways, it'll like make a guess, and then it'll use that guess to figure out, okay, which direction do I need to go in next? So like, you know, if we knew that we could see this bit and we could see this bit, then where would you guess, Hannah?
In the middle of it.
Somewhere in between, right?
Is that a bit like when you try and log on to something and Google Images gives you something like pick all the traffic lights? Is that a bit like that? Is it like teaching the computer how to do it, or is it not? In
some ways that's like teaching the computers to get better at like looking at patterns and deciding whether or not I should make certain decisions about them. But yeah, so in a simple sense, like computers kind of see bits of patterns and they're like, okay, I guess that it's going to be somewhere in the middle. Right, okay, now let's play this challenge again. I can see that Claire was spot on with 12. I only just saw that, but yeah, right answer. Okay, let's play this challenge again, but this time I've changed the map a bit. So I've got rid of McMurdo sound, but let's have some of the other guesses. Like where do we think it could be here? Hannah, go on, give us a couple to start with.
15.
15, right? Yeah, let's give you that. Oh, Canada Glacier. I forgot that was there. Let's get rid of that. Right, 15. There you go.
Let's have another 3.
Let's have a 3. Right, there you go.
There's nothing there.
Exactly. So here we've got a map. There's nothing here. Maybe I'll reveal 20. Nothing. Oh. Maybe I'll reveal this. Oh, we got a Suaf pod. Got rid of those labels. Ooh. Anyway, right now you might be starting to see that there's nothing here. There's no clues in the landscape as to where the peaks are. But if you keep looking, then eventually you'll find them. Right? So this is something that a computer can't really look around for clues to try and solve because the solutions don't have any clues, right? So if a computer guesses, oh, maybe it's going to be at 10, then it can't see, oh, it's kind of uphill in that direction or uphill in that direction. It's got no clues, right? So if you guess here and you don't know that these peaks are either side of you, then which way do you go? You don't know, right? Okay, so this is kind of, and this is a bit of a cartoon, but this is kind of called like a hash function. So what this is a really, really difficult problem for a computer to solve. But the computer tries to solve this problem just by essentially by making loads and loads of guesses. It just makes endless guesses to try and solve the problem. Now you might be wondering why we started with this, if we're doing a lesson about cryptocurrencies, but the reason why is that kind of Bitcoins or cryptocurrencies are like the solutions to this problem. So if you have a solution to this big problem, so Bitcoin, for example, is like one big hash function problem. It's a big hash function that we've all got to solve, and we don't all have to solve it, but it's a big hash function to solve. And if you solve it and you get an answer, then you essentially like own a Bitcoin, kind of. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Cool. Okay. And you can also get Bitcoins in other ways by like processing people's transactions and stuff like that. But anyway, we won't go into that now. So, Hannah, why can't we just steal someone else's Bitcoin? Why can't we just like take their answer?
Oh, I think I might know this. Is it something to do with like a bit like end-to-end encryption, when you like send something across the internet and it like locks it at one end, then you lock it again and you send it back? There's something to do with that when you keep sending it like to the different locations, and it's so you can't really get it, you can't really unlock it.
Not really, actually. You don't. This is the really clever thing about cryptocurrency. You don't need that kind of like clever kind of encryption to make sure that nobody gets it in there, that nobody else gets hold of the answer. The thing is, I could know that the answer to the problem is 30, but at the same time, no one would believe me that I own this answer because everyone knows that Hannah owns this answer.
Oh,
So there's some way that everyone knows that you own the answer and they don't know that I own it. Anyway, we'll go to that in a moment. But before we do, let's just look at this olm. So do you know what an olm is?
Oh, it hasn't got any eyes. That's all I know about it.
I don't know much about them either, but they live in, I think the dragon mythology came from olms.
Are they like really deep sea creatures? They look like something from like Deep Planet, Blue Planet.
I don't think they're deep in the sea. I think they live in caves.
Oh,
in Eastern Europe.
Oh yeah, little olm.
Anyway, we're going to use this olm to explain something called the blockchain. But here I've added an umlaut to make it blockchain. But that's not how people normally say it. You don't need to add the umlaut. Okay, right. So let's do this using the olm. So let's say that the olm's head is the beginning of like this new cryptocurrency that we've just created. So right at the beginning, the first thing happens is that Hannah finds a Bitcoin solution. Right? So Hannah's got one. And Hannah now owns this coin. And let's say she's got the one that was like the answer of 30 or whatever it was.
Nice.
Right? Now, next, I'm gonna get one. So I've found a little Bitcoin. Let's label that as Matthew. And maybe I found the answer that was like 22 or whatever it was in the last one. Cool. And then what happens next is because Hannah made me a delicious pancake breakfast, I then give my coin to Hannah. Give 22 to Hannah. Right? So now you've got 2 coins and I've got nothing, right?
Mm.
Right, but the point is that all these transactions are going down in sequence, one after the other. And this is called like a blockchain. It's like a chain of transactions happening one after the other. Now, if you ran this system, Hannah, like if you're the only person who runs this system, or in fact anyone in the chat as well, what do you think? If you guys were the people who were in charge of keeping all the records, then how could you change the records to your own favor? And let's add another thing going on here. So let's say that later on, Paul, who's another one of our teachers, so Paul finds another solution to the problem with his computer that's mining away trying to find answers.
How would I make it all the blockchain work for me?
Yeah. How would you make it work for you? So like there's so you're in charge of this like list of records, and as far as we know, you own number 30. I owned number 22, but I gave it to you, and then Paul owns 12. Okay. If you could just like go in and you could rewrite all these records, then what would you do?
To then get more Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I would then give Paul one of mine, but then he has to then find me another one.
That's quite generous of you. Just like giving Paul a bit, but that's really nice.
I don't know. But then he has to give me another one afterwards.
So what I'm thinking is you could just go in and you could just like scribble out Paul's name.
Oh.
And on top of Paul's name, instead of Paul's name, you could just write Hannah instead, right?
Okay.
And then you own that coin as well. And nobody knows because you're in charge of like setting all the records, right?
Oh, because I was the first one on the chain. In the chain.
No, let's just say you're the only person who's like keeping track of any of this. So you've got the book. You've got the book somewhere, and you're just writing down all the transactions.
Okay, big dusty book, writing down the transactions. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And so then anyone comes to look at the book, and they're like, "Oh, Hannah owns all of them."
Oh.
Right. So now you have all the coins. Now in like a normal banking system, like in theory, a bank can do this, right? They can just like change a transaction at some stage. So they can just say at some stage, maybe like they can just change a transaction to go to their account instead of someone else's account. And no one would know if they did it secretly enough, right? Okay. But the difference with this system is that with cryptocurrencies, it's not just that there's like one record on the internet. that keeps track of all of these transactions that are all happening in this chain. The reality is that every single person who is using Bitcoins has a record of this transaction. Everyone has the same chain of transactions happening one after the other.
Oh no.
Written down in their own little books on their own like digital computer kind of things.
Really?
Yeah.
Just by owning Bitcoin, you are also contributing to the storage of data about all of the Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So as a consequence, like no one, so let's say that Paul like was trying to fake something and he got in here and he was like, oh, I don't want Matt to have this 22. So he just like scribbles it out. And then he tries to change it to Paul. The only place where this is changed is on his own record. And then you've got a million other people in the world who are like, no, it's not the same as my record.
So then it's not, then the value of it doesn't count because they're like, it's a fake coin.
Yeah, exactly. So because every single person in the world has got a copy of like all the transactions that have ever happened, one after the other in this chain of transactions, you can't change any past transaction.
Crazy.
So that's why there can't be any like fraud. That's why you can't like fraudulently take money away from someone with Bitcoin, and that's why it's highly secure in that sense and quite that. This is why a lot of people like it. So this is called the distributed ledger, and I'm just going to go to this slide. Do you recognize this? I thought this was one of those things that everyone knew about, but then I found it really hard to find a picture of one.
A receipt, like a receipt spear. No, I think that's a bit old school. Maybe that's for people who like really keep track of their finances, and everything's digital now.
Yeah, exactly. So like the thing with the receipt spike, it's a pretty old thing, but what you do is like you get a receipt, you put it on the spike, and then you put the next one on the spike and so on, and you know exactly the order that all the receipts got picked up in because the bottom one is the oldest one and so on. And this is like really, really similar to the blockchain. So every transaction that ever happens just stacks on top of one another like this in a record that just keeps stacking. And every time someone discovers a Bitcoin or makes a new transaction, it gets recorded on this like increasing spike up and up and up. Right?
Nice. Yeah, I'm getting it. I'm there.
Okay.
I'm just my initial question, I don't know if anyone else has.
Yeah.
Has there always been the same amount of Bitcoin that just has been undiscovered? Like, is there a set amount of Bitcoin that can ever be made, and therefore you just got to go away and find it?
Okay, good question. Right. So let's go back to here. So when we're talking about the hash function, and the hash function is like trying to find solutions to this problem. So the hash function will have like a predefined number of solutions. You're right. So the hash function is basically like a super complicated equation that's got loads and loads of possible solutions. And we can just see here there's a solution at 2, one at 15, and one at 30. Right, this is where the answers are. But when the Bitcoin like original function was invented, there were loads and loads of solutions, but it's a fixed number of solutions. So you're right, like eventually we will get to a point where you can't come up with any more solutions. Well, right. Kind of. It's a bit of a cartoony view, but yes, essentially you can't. There is a limit to how many solutions you can get to
in one like type of Bitcoin, like as in from the original solution that was made to create that Bitcoin in the first place.
Yeah, from the original problem. So like, okay,
original problem, yeah.
Actually, I didn't explain this well enough to begin with, but basically, like, Bitcoin is like a big maths problem, and it has loads and loads of answers, and each answer is kind of like a Bitcoin in itself. And people are out there mining their Bitcoin, and to mine the Bitcoin, they're just like trying to find answers to the problem.
That's where the miners come in. This is what the miners are doing. The miners are trying to come up with solutions to the hash function. The problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, I'm there. Who else is there? Everyone following? Let's just check in with everyone. Are we all on board? I think I now am at the point where I understand how, but I'll tell you where I'm at, Matt. Yeah. I understand how Bitcoin was created, how you actually acquire Bitcoin. So if you're a data miner, and why Bitcoin is safer than like technically than real money, than just like stealing someone's money.
Cool. Okay, great. Good. We're on track. Okay, so next, I completely admit I did not explain the beginning of this clearly enough. And it makes me want to run this. It makes me want to run this whole lesson again. Great question.
It's great. It's great. It's great. Keep going.
Okay, so where was I going next? Right, so yeah, it's safe because we've got the distributed ledger and blah blah. Okay, right, cool. So now let's talk about different kinds of coins, right?
Yes.
So you've got Bitcoin and Ethereum are the two that most people have heard about. So Bitcoin is the really famous one. It was the first one, or at least it was the first one to gain mainstream popularity. I think it was the first one. And then Ethereum is the other really big one that people talk about. And in some ways, people have started likening these to being kind of like digital gold and digital silver, but it's more complicated than that because Ethereum has got loads of like really clever stuff going on, and you can like build programs that run on the Ethereum itself. And Ethereum's way cleverer than Bitcoin, but it's just that Bitcoin got there first. And so Bitcoin's kind of the big one and Ethereum tends to lag behind it. Anyway, we won't talk about this now, but let's just talk about these three as just examples of what goes on, because there are loads of cryptocurrencies. I mean, like these are the main two, but there are loads. So like Dash. Does anyone know what the point of Dash is? Hannah, do you know what the point of Dash is?
Trying to get faster internet connection. I don't know. What was it?
No.
I don't know. That's immediately what I thought. It was weird. God.
I'm wondering if anyone in the chat knows.
Yeah, does anyone know what Dash is? Might be like a cleaning product.
It's to do with the fact that a Bitcoin transaction takes a really, really long time. Right. It takes several minutes to go through. It's really slow. And you compare that to like money transactions nowadays, it's like, really? Is this the technology that's been built? It takes a long time. And that's because there's loads of computing that needs to be done to program the whole ledger, because you've now got to look at this huge chain of transactions in the past and verify that it's the same for every single person. And then finally, when everyone's agreed, everyone's got exactly the same records, right, fine, this Bitcoin can go through because everyone agrees. And so, yeah, there's loads of processing that needs to be done, but also processing gets rewarded with Bitcoins. We won't get into that now. Okay, but so Mariam is saying I was only aware of Bitcoin. Yeah, there are loads, Mariam. Okay, so Dash exists because it's super fast. So the transactions just go through like that. Not very interesting, but still kind of useful. Monero is one that's like really interesting. So Monero, I think, is like Esperanto. You know that language, Esperanto?
What's Esperanto? Is it from the Caribbean? Where is it from?
No, Esperanto is like a blend of like Spanish, French, Swedish, Portuguese, English. It's like loads and loads of well, Sarah's saying it was like the original global language.
Very cool.
I've got a student who can speak Swedish and Spanish, and he can just read it. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it.
Incredible.
Sorry, Swedish and French. Doesn't matter. Anyway, but yeah, so Monero is the word for like money or wealth or something in Esperanto. But Monero is the one that a lot of criminals really like, because one of the things we didn't talk about before is that when you trade Bitcoins around, you don't trade them between like a wallet that says Hannah Lewis on it and Matthew Shribman. You trade it between like an anonymous wallet with a code on and another anonymous wallet with a code on, and it just goes between. And nowadays people can start to track Bitcoin transactions, but still like it's kind of a little bit anonymous. But Monero is really, really anonymous. So how it works is like this. But let's say I want to give you some money, but I don't want anyone to know about it.
Okay.
What I would do is I would get together with like 10,000 other people who all want to make transactions. And then what we all do is everyone who wants to give money just throws it into a pot in the middle. And then everyone who needs to take the right amount of money then takes it from the pots. But there's like a control to make sure you only get what you were supposed to receive. But then who's to say who you receive that money from, Hannah? You know?
It's like a big like whirlpool of money.
Yeah, so Monero's one that's like quite tied up with criminals because of that. And Dogecoin is just, do you know what Dogecoin is, anyone?
Must be for the dog ads. No.
Yeah, Dogecoin is just entirely based on a meme.
It's not from the Doge meme.
It is, yeah. That's
I love
basically the whole
internet.
vibe. Anyway, right. So we promised that we talk about the future of money. So we need to start moving on to that. So our monetary system at the moment is what's called a fiat monetary system. Does anyone know what that means? What does fiat mean?
Like the car.
Yeah, like the car. I'll write the words on the board if I can find fiat.
If anyone's got any car knowledge, you might know what Matthew's talking about. Whereas I am more of a two-wheel kind of gal, but I do know what cars are.
It's nothing to do with cars. Okay, so fiat. What does fiat mean? I'm not very good at languages, but doesn't fiat mean something to do with the word free?
Oh, very possibly.
Or
Free on the
something like that?
road. I'm holding on to the car thing. Free. Okay, great.
It means something super free. Anyway, it doesn't mean that the money is free, but it means that it's not based on anything. It's just entirely fictional. So the money isn't linked to any intrinsic value, right? So if you offered to give me a pound coin, I'd be like, great, cool, I can spend this. But it's not really linked to anything, right? The only reason it has any value is because we both trust that it has some value, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. International automated.
Mariam's saying international automated transaction. I don't think that. Have you just made that up, Mariam? Because it's suddenly making me doubt what fiat currency is. Well, it's so good if you've just invented that from the words, from the letters. But I don't think it is. It's not that. It's just based on the fact that it's not based on anything.
It's a
right?
social construct.
It's a construct, right? So let's say you go into a bank. So you go into a bank and you ask for a loan, and you're like, right, I want £500 as a loan. Oh, yeah, Mariam's guessing. Phew, suddenly made me worried. Okay, so yeah, you go into a bank and you want a loan, and so I'm going to be the bank. Hannah, ask me for a loan.
Thank you. Please, may I have some money? I will give it to you back sometime soon, very soon.
Right. How much do you want?
£100, please.
Great. Here's £100. Okay, so where did that £100 that I just gave you come from?
From the safe in the bank.
No.
From the bank's bank. The money in the bank.
No.
I don't know. From the.
Does anyone in the chat know where that money came from?
Someone else's money. Nowhere.
Yeah. No. LVR TCKR Leviticur. And Sarah, both spot on. Great answers, both of you. Yeah, it just comes from nowhere. So the bank just types the money into the computer, and suddenly the money exists. And the only reason the money exists is because what gives it value is that you are going to pay it back. That's the only thing that gives it value. But before then, it didn't exist. It wasn't that they took it from someone else's account, or took it from their pot of savings, or took it from the back of the bank. They just made it up because you wanted it. Right. Another question. So if every single debt in US dollars around the world were to be paid off tomorrow, just like that, then what would happen to US dollars, do you think?
The value would, I'm not going to say, I'm going to let people answer. I think I know. I'm feeling good about this one. I was giving intentionally vague answers before. Not. I didn't know what was going on. What would happen to the value of the dollar? I think it would go down, Matthew.
Yeah?
Yeah. Crash.
Yeah, LVR Ticker is saying the same thing as well. It's not that the dollar's value would in theory crash, I guess, because that would be a knock-on effects. But the point is that if all of the US dollars all the US dollar debts in the world were paid off tomorrow, all of the US dollars in the world would cease to exist. There'd be none left. And there'd not only be none left, but actually it would be physically impossible to pay them all off before none existed anymore.
Why? How?
Because every single dollar in existence is based on a debt. Every dollar in existence is based on someone owing someone else some money. So as soon as the debt is paid off to the final person in the chain, it doesn't exist anymore, because eventually when it gets back to like a bank that essentially kind of invented the money in the first place, it's gone.
That is absolutely mad. So is that why when this whole discussion about inflation, when there's this like issue with the value of the currency going down, and they're like worried about it, and so they try and increase interest rates? What is that? There's an argument to say that you can literally just print as much money, like the Bank of England could just print as much money as we needed to solve the issues we need to solve, because like you say, money is just comes from thin air.
Right. Okay. This is where we're going next.
Okay.
This is where we're going next. So in theory, central banks of countries can kind of, and again, I'm making a bit of a cartoon here, and it's more complicated when you get into it. But like in a way, they can kind of like type in money from nowhere, and then they can use it to buy stuff. And this is so there's something that you might have heard in the news called quantitative easing. And it sounds really boring, and it's almost like it's designed to sound boring on purpose, but it's like the defining thing of our era. It's completely transforming the world, and it's just quietly happening in the background and completely turning everything into a completely different planet. But quantitative easing is essentially this process where central banks just create money out of nowhere. They just type money into existence that wasn't there before, and then they use it to buy things. And they use it to buy stocks on the stock market, which means sometimes they use it to buy bonds, but at the moment they're using it to buy stocks. What that means is they go and buy shares in companies. So they're like, okay, I'll have a little bit of Apple, a little bit of Tesla, a little bit of Microsoft, and they just buy all these shares in the companies. Now, what happens to the value of the shares when this happens?
They go up.
They go up because there's more buying, buying, more demands. They go up. Now, who does this benefit the most?
Oh, that's such a good question. Help me out. I'm like, genuinely, this is blowing my mind as much as you guys. So I need you on the chat. The banks. Sarah's saying the banks. I'm going to go Sarah.
So banks benefit because they also hold like stocks, and so their value of their stocks will go up as well, probably. But the main answer is rich people, right? Because rich people are the people who buy stocks. Like it's only people who have quite a lot of money who are like, right, I've bought all the things I need, I've got everything I need, I've got my food, I've got my shelter, I've got all my fundamentals. What should I do with my money? Let's buy stocks. Let's buy shares, right? Okay. So basically, rich people benefit from this, and this is kind of like quietly happening in the background. You might have seen the stock market just keeps going up and up and up and up and up and up and up, and the people benefiting from that are rich people who have shares. Right? Okay. Quick aside from this, what we're going to do, Hannah, is we're going to go to the island. Oh wait, actually, do you know where this island is? Before I go on.
Oh, is it where all the albatrosses lay their eggs? Is it some beautiful island where? No. No, it's not.
This is the island of Rockall.
Rockall, that's nice.
Do you know Rockall?
It's a lovely name. No, I'm actually not familiar with Rockall.
Rockall is the place where my band claimed in all of our marketing that we played our first ever gig.
Quirky.
It's a tiny island off the it's way off to the west of the UK, like out towards Iceland. It's just like a tiny uninhabited island that everyone's arguing over who owns it. Anyway, basically, let's pretend there's nothing on the island apart from you and me, right?
Okay.
There's nothing on the island apart from you and me, and I have got this super cool rain hat. That's not, well, it's pretty plasticky. So
is this what Nish would call a thought experiment?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, great.
Right. So I've got this rain hat, and it's pretty rainy on Rockall, so it's a pretty good thing to have, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing else on the island apart from the two of us and this rain hat, and you have got let's use American dollars. You've got $200, right?
Okay.
Now, there's nothing else to buy. How much is the rain hat worth?
$200.
It's worth $200. Yeah. Why would I sell it for anything less, right? It's worth $200. Okay, now what's going to happen is you go away and you're like, oh, I need more money for some reason. I mean, this probably wouldn't be how you'd respond, because I know that you'd be busy just like making friends with the birds. But,
yeah, that's exactly what I'd be doing.
But let's say you really want the hat, and you have like, what you might go and do is you might go and like somehow come back with $400. You've just made another $200 out of like a bird feather, and like, I don't know how you've made it.
Great.
Right, there's now $400. How much is the hat worth?
But I thought I had the hat.
No, you haven't bought it yet. I refuse to sell it for $200.
Oh, okay. That, and maybe even a promise of I'll give you more money when I come back. Like, please just give me the hat. I'm desperate for the hat.
Okay, but what's the hat worth in terms of money? What would I sell it for?
£600.
Hannah.
I was like able to get off the island to go make some buck, then come back. Okay, £400, obviously, because that's what I've got at the moment.
Dollarish. We're in America. We're confusingly in American dollars. Okay, so it's worth $400 now. So it was worth 200, but as soon as you created another 200, it's now worth 400.
Yes.
Right? Because this is the only thing worth owning on the island.
Yeah.
Bit unfair because there are some great birds on the island. Anyway, let's just pretend it's the only thing worth owning on the island. So as soon as there's $400 on the island, it's now worth $400. Now let's say you print another $200 from somewhere mysteriously. How much is the hat now worth?
£600.
$600.
Dollars.
Anyway, the point is the price of the hat is going up because the value of money is going down because you're creating more money. So this is what's this called? Who knows on the chat what this is called? This process.
I think I might know. They did it. It happened in World War II.
Inflation.
Yes.
Sarah's right. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so this is called inflation. So the amount of money increases, but the amount of stuff worth owning stays the same. And so ultimately the price of stuff just goes up and up and up. And what it means for people holding money is that your money just gradually becomes less and less worth something. Right? Now, inflation is happening all the time. And like maybe the price of stuff goes up by like 3% a year or something like that. And this is kind of like the standard-ish rate that things change at the moment. But why is quantitative easing not causing more inflation? So quantitative easing is that process where the central bank's just creating a ton of money and they're literally like starting to create on the order of trillions and they're just pumping it all into the economy. It's all money that didn't exist before. They just create it out of nowhere, use it to buy stocks. Surely that should be creating a ton of inflation.
I know why it's not creating inflation.
Why?
Because people trust central banks. They trust central banks to set interest rates and to use quantitative easing to give people confidence in the economy. So they keep spending money and therefore it doesn't matter what they do.
So you said that central banks set interest rates, but they don't set interest rates. They just try and alter the money supply and wait, sorry, did I just say interest? Oh, sorry. I actually think I misheard you. Did you say that they set inflation rates or they set interest rates?
Interest rates.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so they set interest rates and they set like they create like the rate at which money gets created and so on to try to keep inflation at a certain level.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this still doesn't make sense. If they're literally creating trillions out of nowhere and spending it into stocks, still that should have an effect on everything. They're just creating loads of money out of nowhere. The price of everything should be skyrocketing, but it's not happening. And it's really weird. Why is that not happening? It's one of the strangest and most important things about what's going on in the reality of the world at the moment.
That's so, yeah. Is it something to do with currency exchanges and the way that transactions work globally? No, nothing like that about that. Wait, help us out. Hello.
It's surprisingly simple, but also quite scary.
People think they have a certain amount of money because it comes up on their paycheck and it's sitting in their bank account. And therefore, what happens outside of like consumer like wealth and sort of average everyday person wealth isn't like, we don't hit the stock markets. Oh no, I don't know.
The reason is, let's say, okay, so let's go back to Rockall, and let's say that
I feel exhausted already. Let's just go sit on Rockall.
Let's go back to Rockall. So Rockall's got a load of carrots, right? And we need the carrots to eat, don't we?
Washed up on the island, yeah.
There's a big pile of carrots. Now, if you've got money, you're probably gonna want to buy carrots because you've got to eat something, right?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes, I do. Yeah,
You gotta
absolutely.
eat something if you got money, you're gonna buy carrots. Now, if the amount of money in the system goes up, then the carrots are going to go up in price. You're going to need more money to buy them because there's just a flood of money, and so the carrot sellers are like, well, I want more money for my carrots, right?
Yeah. The carrot says, yeah.
But okay, now let's leave Rockall again and go to not Rockall, but this. Here we go. JDRL18 has got the right answer. It's not getting spent. All of the extra money in the system is going to all the rich people who hold stocks. And what do they do with their money? They don't need extra food. They've already got the food they need. They don't need extra cars. They've already got the cars they need. They don't need most of the normal things. And so they don't spend it into the economy. And so the economy almost doesn't notice that there's this vast amount of money being created in the world of rich people. And so it doesn't inflate the system. And it's very weird. It's called inflationary pressure. It's like this tidal wave of inflation waiting to happen. So if there was a situation where suddenly all the rich people started buying loads of normal things, like going to the supermarket and being like, right, I'm going to have 100 loaves of bread today, and I'll have 5,000 eggs, and so on. Like, loads of rich people could afford this because they made loads of money from stocks because of quantitative easing.
But they don't need it.
They don't need it, so they don't buy it. But if they did go and do that, then suddenly it would drive the price sky high because there isn't actually that much supply of it, and suddenly there's loads of money able to buy it.
Oh, you're going to talk about Elon Musk next, aren't you? And Bitcoin.
No, because we're nearly at 45 minutes, so I'm not going to. 5,000 eggs.
That's a very big pavlova.
But yeah, the point is that like is that the currency, our currency doesn't inflate because people aren't spending money into the system. All the rich people just hold on to their money and they just keep putting the money back into stocks. And eventually there must come a point where either all of that money will suddenly create loads of inflation, or there'll just be this continuing separation between rich people and everyone else. And probably the latter will happen on the current path that we're on. But anyway, right. So we're just going to go back now to cryptocurrencies.
Right.
So cryptocurrencies, you can't do this with, right? You don't have a central bank that can just create loads of cryptocurrencies out of nowhere. It's who controls the records of where the cryptocurrencies come from?
Everyone.
And where do they come from? They come from finding solutions to a problem. And everyone knows who owns which solution because everyone's got an ongoing record of it. You can't have a central bank that's like, right, we're just going to create 5 billion Bitcoins.
Yes.
It can't happen because the records are already there. The function was set at the beginning. The problem was solved the problem was set right at the beginning of the game. And no one can just create money out of nowhere. So you can't create this mad inflation. It's a totally different way of running money. It's like money is being based on gold again. You can't just create gold out of thin air. You can't just create Bitcoins out of thin air.
Yeah, that was before late 70s, wasn't it? Everyone had gold.
So this has a lot of potential positives and a lot of potential negatives.
Oh, yeah.
Because who holds all the Bitcoins?
Everyone.
Well, not really. It's mainly just a load of rich people again, isn't it?
Well, the rich people like Elon Musk.
It's quite rich people like Elon Musk, but it's like a small number of people. So if the future became Bitcoin, then we'd be taking we'd be taking power away from central banks. We'd be giving power to all the people who just happen to mine Bitcoin early on in the age of Bitcoin. So in that sense, it would create loads of its own problems, but also it would be a good thing in that you couldn't create this like endless inflation of money, which itself is like central banks destroying their own monetary system.
Right.
So there are good things and bad things about it. We need to finish now, but I really quickly wanted to touch on like the environmental impact. Have you heard about that thing where like?
Yeah, great. No, go right to the end.
So, you might have seen in the news people talking about how, like the whole Bitcoin network takes up the equivalent amount of energy of like a small city.
Yes, because of the miners.
Which is true because there's all the mining, there's all the processing of transactions, there's a crazy amount of energy being used.
Yeah.
But if you compare that to the amount of energy that is used by the entire banking sector in like looking after all of money, then I haven't actually looked at the numbers to compare what's what, but you know, you don't need banks to look after the money supply because everyone has the ledger by themselves. Everyone knows the records by themselves. So I don't know enough about that. But the thing is, when people talk about the environmental issues of cryptocurrencies, I'm not quite sure yet. I haven't quite decided because I still need to figure out more about which is actually worse for the planet. It's difficult to say.
If
The thing about
go on. If Bitcoin was going to allow you to invest in alternative technologies, more sustainable like companies, but they weren't listed on the stock market, right? They weren't companies who had shares because they weren't big enough, then that would be a way of Bitcoin creating some form of climate justice, right?
So it's not, I don't know about that being done with Bitcoin, but that already happens, right? So it's called an ICO, an initial coin offering, where companies will create their own coin like a Bitcoin, but their own like company coin, and loads of people will buy it, and it'll be like buying shares in the company. So yeah, you can very quickly kind of get invested, but ultimately that ends up being an absolute mess. Like loads of bubbles get created, loads of people lose loads of money, and a lot of people lie about the companies they're setting up, and so it's quite a wild west space at the moment.
Right.
So who knows? But ultimately, the main thing that is really important about it is that if you can't create this inflationary system, if you can't create an inflationary system as our central banks do and as other banks do that just constantly increases the money supply, then you can't quite necessarily create the same system that we have today. And this is a longer story that we'll have to talk about another time, but a system that's constantly inflating is one that's based on debt is one that means that debt constantly has to be paid off. And if people all over the world are constantly in debt and have to pay it off, then people are forced to make the kind of decisions that people in debt make, i.e., if they have a few trees and they need to chop them down to make the money back, they'll chop them down. If they're a country in debt and they have an oil field that they were avoiding using because they didn't want to ruin the environment, they now have to use the oil fields. They have to mine the oil because they've got debts to pay off.
Right.
So debt-based system is hugely problematic for the environment in many other ways. So when people look at Bitcoin and they're like, oh no, that's a big environmental problem, maybe a non-debt-based system could actually solve a lot of environmental problems as well. So none of this is financial advice, by the way. We have to say that. I always forget to say that. But Bitcoin could well be a very important part of the future of money.
Part of the future of money. Part of.
We'll see. Anyway, have you got any other questions, Hannah, that I didn't answer?
I just wondered if there's a limit to how many people can set up like accounts to be able to buy Bitcoin, like, because that must be something, since Elon Musk bought all of his Bitcoin and the value's been going up and up and up. I wondered if there's been a kind of rush that they can't handle. Like they can't handle the amount of people trying to get a piece of the pie.
No, I mean, the thing is that like as the Bitcoin network gets bigger, it becomes harder and harder to process all the transactions. But then at the same time, the price goes up. So the value of processing transactions goes up. And so more people want to do it.
Right. The mining.
Yeah, but all of this mining is using up a huge amount of energy, and there must be another way of doing it because it's crazy how much energy it takes.
Lovetuk said that Argo blockchain is launching a clean energy only mining pool, Terra pool, which is interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean the other thing is like that's great, but at the same time, it's still using up loads of energy, and we kind of need one of the best things that we can do to protect the future of civilization is just to generally try and use less energy. So what would be great is if instead of them using that renewable energy, it went into the rest of the grid, and we found a better way to like process cryptocurrency transactions that wasn't using up so much power. Potentially, if we found a new problem other than the original Bitcoin problem, the original Bitcoin hash function that was a bit simpler to solve, perhaps. But anyway, right. So thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. And we will be back at the same time next week with another learning adventure from Josh called When Will the Sun Explode? Ooh, this one. And the following week, I can't believe I'm on again, actually. I didn't think I was going to be on for ages, but it looks like I'm going to be back with How Many People Is Too Many People, which will mainly be Paul Turner, but I'll be in Hannah's seat for that one, being the duo one. So yeah, please tell your friends and family about our Nature First Curiosity Powered online school and our mission to make world-class live learning accessible for all. If you'd like to join our Discord community, then here's the link for that. And if you'd like the chance to win £100, then you can get involved with our latest challenge. And Hannah, in fact, you should tell people about this. I keep forgetting to tell you this, but it's called the Future Dictionary Challenge, and the head of the Oxford English Dictionary is one of the judges, and the aim is to invent a new word. So I think this is a very special thing, because like one of the most powerful acts that anyone can do in the world to make a positive difference is to invent a new word, I think, because without words for things, we can't understand them, protect them, or like properly value them. And a huge part of the evolution of human civilization has been the creation of new words. Like, imagine if there was no word for freedom. How would we know how to prevent it from slipping away? So as the world changes, we need more words for things that truly matter that aren't defined yet. So all you have to do is come up with a word fit for the future and a definition. Prizes are £100, and thanks to some generous support, there are actually quite a few prizes. So check that out there if you'd like to. And if you're a student and you're under the age of 25 and you'd like to be actively involved with Aim High and our mission to put nature first in education and make excellent live learning accessible to everyone, then you should apply to join our global community of youth ambassadors. And the link for that is there. So otherwise, if you're keen to find out more about Aim High tutoring, we're connecting learners with top tutors in fun, interactive group sessions like the one you have just experienced. And finally, you can find that here. So yeah, do follow our socials. If you're watching on Twitch, do follow us on there, or wherever you're watching, please do follow us. Don't forget to join our community, and see you next week. Thank you for being a part of this lesson, and thank you, Hannah.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Very, very good.
Farewell. Bye-bye.